We went to a funeral in a Buddhist temple. The village chief had been killed that morning. Praying for murder victims is becoming a familiar ritual in southern Thailand. All Buddhists are potential targets. In the last 5 months, there have been 6 shootings just in this village, 4 of them fatal, and the violence isn't restricted to this area. All across the south, hundreds of people have been killed in the last 12 months. The government blames Islamic separatists and has declared martial law in the south. Trouble is, they're not sure who they're fighting. Thailand's 3 southernmost provinces used to belong to Malaysia till they were annexed a century ago. Though Thailand is a predominantly Buddhist country, 90% of the people here are Muslim. Southern Muslims have long complained of being treated like second-class citizens. Now they feel like enemies in their own country. We're entering Tak Pai, which is normally a fairly sleepy, small city. But a few weeks ago, an event happened here that's changed everything. In October, hundreds of Muslims gathered outside this police station. The police had arrested a group of Muslim villagers on charges of supplying militants with guns. Locals said the accusations were unfounded and came to demonstrate. 1,300 people, men, women and children, came here to protest. Then suddenly someone started to fire. Some of the protesters had thrown stones at the station. The police responded with live ammunition. 6 people were shot dead. The rest ran for the river. The demonstrators were unarmed. As they ran here, the security forces rounded them up, tied their hands behind their backs and forced them to lie face down. Some of the demonstrators drowned in the river. Others had their necks broken from beatings. In Thailand, showing this footage is illegal. It's never been broadcast by the Thai media, but bootlegged copies are available in the markets, and it's been shown on Malaysian TV. 78 of these men suffocated when they were piled into trucks and driven to an army base. Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra expressed regret, but stopped short of an apology. Mino was at the market that morning. When she went to see what the demo was about, things turned ugly. She was very scared. She started crawling towards the river. She got into the water and tried to swim away from there. And then she could feel something over her head. She looked up and she felt a bullet going through her hair. So she came back onto the shore and hid behind a rock. What she remembers most is the dead people. She feels pain, she feels sorrow for them. The 7 people whose arrest sparked off the whole Tak Pai incident came from this village, and 6 people from here were killed that day. The villagers don't like Prime Minister Thaksin's government. They believe it has taken power from local leaders and imposed Western values on their Muslim way of life. Masadi Yako's brother Ade was shot dead at Tak Pai. He said he woke up in the morning, did the same thing as every day. Then his mother, who was in the house, said to him, "Don't you want to go to the protest?" His brother had already left the house to go to it. He went to Tak Pai, he could hear gunshots, and he saw people fall to the ground, and he realised these were real bullets, and that people were being killed. Masadi, a father of 5, is lucky to be alive. Masudi was lying on the ground when the bullet came and entered his back here, went straight through him and came out this side. He said he's still in a lot of pain with this. He said the Muslims were used to injustice, but now things were worse than ever. He said the Thai Muslims are treated differently to other Thai people in the rest of the country. He said if you're a Buddhist, you can get a good job and have a better way of life, but if you're a Muslim, you can't get a good job. And now resentment against state violence could help insurgents win new recruits. Most of these people have lost relatives, husbands or fathers, sons or brothers, and they're staying together to give each other strength because they're afraid if people are alone in their own houses, they might commit suicide. Saliha's husband, Makisang, was shot in the head. At 27, she's bringing up 4 children alone. She said before they married, her husband served in the Thai army. Saliha found out about her husband's death on the TV news and had to get the body herself. Now she's retreating into Islam for comfort. She said she thinks the south should split from Thailand and come under Malaysian rule because if it belonged to Malaysia, it might be more peaceful. Prime Minister Thaksin decided some response was needed to placate Muslim anger in the south. The kids are going nuts. 100 million paper cranes were folded by Thais from all over the country and airdropped on the south. A gesture of unity, peace. Lots. Messages. Lots of people seem to have sent messages. Ah, that's nice. This is one that came from a kindergarten school in the centre of the country, and a little girl wrote this message, and she said, "We hope the peace comes back. We care about your heart." Not everyone was impressed. Every night, the insurgents are active. We've just heard there's been an armed robbery and apparently guns were stolen. We're on our way to try and find out what happened. Masked assailants had attacked civilian security guards at a fire station. It was a typical militant raid. Speed in by motorbike, attack, then flee. Hundreds of weapons have been stolen in the last 18 months, both from military bases and civilians who've been given rifles to protect their communities. The robbers came, put guns to the security guards' heads, handcuffed them and then stole the guns. At least that was their story. But these days, the army doesn't take anything at face value. The men are being taken off for further investigation. This is the sort of incident that sparked off Takbai. Village defence volunteers who had guns were accused of either selling them or giving them to militants and were arrested. Their fellow villagers disagreed with this interpretation and went to protest for the release, and that's when it all kicked off. We travelled to Atimung, a Buddhist village in the Simmering district. In November, militants attacked the village deputy chief and beheaded him. Simmering is surrounded by very dense jungle, which makes it easy for assailants to creep in and out. The residents have set up a defence force, and the army has provided them with guns and training. Buddhist monasteries are now military bases. Even monks have been killed in this conflict. The urn contained the ashes of the deputy village chief. A note beside his head said the killing was revenge for the Muslim protesters killed at Takbai. If anyone witnessed the slaying, they're not talking. We met the village chief, Bunser and Pechwan. He said some people want separatism here, some people want to kill the Buddhists or make them leave this land so that 3 provinces can be Muslim. And he said it's working in some places already because many people have left. He believes Muslim neighbours are carrying out the attacks. He said in the Islamic population, women can't use birth control, so they have a lot of children. Their families are big and quite poor, so there's a lot of impoverishment. And young boys grow up and they can't get a good job. So when these teenagers are offered money to do things, they accept it. And he said that there is a generation of teenagers now that have been guided in this way for a long time. At least 3 people have been beheaded since Takbai, apparently by Muslim insurgent groups. Since the killers are still at large, everyone is under suspicion. He said when we came in through the army checkpoint, he was radioed and told that a strange vehicle was on the way, and they're in contact with each other by walkie-talkie. That's how paranoid everybody is here. The chief knows he could be next. He said the villagers need 24-hour security now, and people are even looking for permission to buy guns so they can protect themselves. Arrests are rare. The security forces can't detect any single organisation behind the killing. This is a newly issued poster of most wanted suspects. According to this, people who have been causing trouble in the south and who are behind bombings and burnings and killings. And some of these are specifically linked to crimes like the killing of a judge or a student. They're all Thai citizens, though the security forces think a lot may have fled the country. Whether the suspects are guilty or not, the attacks go on. We've just heard that a village chief has been shot this morning. Apparently he was shot first and died half an hour later. Another assassination of a Buddhist official. A drive-by shooting. The village chief was shot over here. There's a trail of blood as he started to crash on his motorbike. He came as far as here and crashed into that area over there. As usual, the killers had escaped. This is where he died. There was a pool of blood, and it's tradition around here for relatives to burn the blood. That's why it's charred. Kliang Changkong was shot a mile away from home. His wife said that even if their Muslim neighbours witnessed the shooting, they could say nothing for fear of being killed themselves. A few months earlier, the Buddhists in this village received leaflets warning them to get out. The post-mortem is being carried out here outside the temple, and at the same time the body is being washed and prepared for the funeral. His wife and daughters are working alongside army medics. Kliang's father didn't expect justice for his son, and revenge wasn't possible. He said if they wanted revenge, they wouldn't know where to look for it because they don't know who's doing this. He said he raised his son for 52 years for this. He said he has no tears now, they're dry. The Buddhists feel abandoned by the state. This is a daily occurrence now. Yesterday a teacher was shot, this morning the village chief, and later this afternoon we heard that an ice cream seller was shot. State schools that teach Buddhists and Muslims are targets. Dozens have been burnt in arson attacks. Half of this school was burnt to the ground. Dozens of teachers, Muslim and Buddhist, have been killed. Teachers and children travel under army escort. Bye. The 25,000-strong military presence has not stopped the violence. We've just heard that a bomb has exploded in Rangay, a place that's about half an hour from here. It's too dangerous now to drive there because it's too late at night. We don't know what it might be like on the roads. Again, the perpetrators got away. You know that a grenade or a firebomb was thrown into an army patrol vehicle and at least 3 or 4 soldiers have been hurt. None of the soldiers died this time. It was the 3rd such attack in this particular district in 2 days. Neighbours were repairing shrapnel damage. Because it's rainy season, the soldiers were sheltering from a heavy downburst. When it eased off, they came out here to patrol by a checkpoint. That's where the bomb went off, and this is the crater that remains. Packed with nails and ball bearings for maximum damage, the device was detonated by mobile phone. Off the record, security officials say the militants may be linked to Jemaah Islamiyah, the Indonesian group behind the Bali bombing. Round here, they're known as Asia's wing of Al-Qaeda, but there's no concrete evidence. A mosque in Crusade offered us a clue about Thailand's shadowy militants. This is the oldest mosque in the south. It's a place of pilgrimage, in fact. It's regarded locally as a little Mecca. In April last year, this was the scene of a bizarre martyrdom mission. A local cameraman filmed the aftermath. Some 30 men from around the 3 provinces came here to pray. They told locals they were going to wage holy war. Then, wearing headbands and wielding knives, they attacked the police station. The police opened fire. The men ran back here, took refuge in the mosque, and a siege situation went on for a few hours. The police didn't know who was behind the attack. When the men wouldn't come out, the police fired on the mosque and threw grenades inside. 32 people died. When the bodies were found, the police discovered that their attackers had been armed only with holy water and knives. Hayeni Singh Naile met the fighters during prayers in the mosque. He said he doesn't know why the men attacked the police station. They weren't from here. Nobody from here took part in their raid. He doesn't know if they had guns. He just saw them with knives. He said they came back in here again, and then the police surrounded the mosque and shot at it for hours, and there are still scars on the mosque of the battle. He said he didn't understand what the men had given their lives for. He said he cannot say if they were martyrs or not. That depends on themselves and their own beliefs and their reasons for the attack. But he said they chose to die in this mosque. This wasn't an isolated incident. That same day, in Suso village, an entire football team took part in a suicide mission. Their method was identical to Crusade. The footballers attacked this police station, wielding knives. They provoked the police, who then followed them down the road when the footballers took refuge in this restaurant. They ran in here, crouched down in these alcoves. The police opened fire, and you can still see the bullet marks here. In all, 109 men died that day. Martyrs' graveyards are commonplace in Kashmir or Pakistan. In Thailand, there's something completely new. All these men were buried as shaheeds, or martyrs. Whatever godly cause they died for, most of the men had abandoned earthly wives and families. We met the widow of Ya Haskaye. Zakia is 23. She was only married for a year. She had the baby after her husband died, and she doesn't want to talk about his death. She's still not able to. This place is full of sorrow. Lots of the families don't understand what motivated their relatives to go on a suicide mission. The baby's name is Nur Shahida, light of the martyr. Ya's father, Saleh, doesn't blame the police for shooting his son. He blames the people who persuaded him to go on the mission, whoever they are. He said nobody's explained to him why Yam took part in these attacks. He's spoken to his friends and they can't explain to him either. One thing all the men had in common is that they were very devout. He said his son was very religious, and he also preached the religion. He taught people at home. Like 70% of southern Muslims, Ya had been educated at a strict private Islamic school. The government is now connecting the insurgency to these schools. We've just heard that the security forces have tried to arrest a teacher who works at a private Islamic school. Apparently he's run away, but they've surrounded the school. The authorities arrested 4 Islamic teachers that day. The Prime Minister said it was the beginning of a campaign to root out the terrorist masterminds. The government believes that some teachers who studied in other Muslim countries are importing jihadi ideas. Have you found anything here yet?
I'm not looking for.
You're still looking for guns. So you think that these guns, if there are guns, may be connected to the violence?
Yes.
Schools are very much on the front line here. Private Islamic secondary schools like this one are under increasing scrutiny because the government believes some teachers are preaching radical Islam and recruiting militants. From this school alone, 1 teacher has been arrested for shooting a soldier and 3 more are on the run. For Bangkok, a crackdown on Islamic schools risks being seen as an attack on Muslim identity. A backlash could drive thousands more into insurgency. Most of the evidence points towards the insurgents being local people organising themselves spontaneously.
Please come.
Thank you, Colonel Sam. The army is trying desperately to restore relations with the locals. They fear what's developing.
Well, greeting. They want to greet you.
Oh, the kids.
Yeah, the kids.
So the soldiers have brought all these kids to see us. This is a way for the army to win hearts and minds and to secure the trust of the people and to help them feel protected. And as well as that, they teach them self-defense and how to use weapons.
I can say that it belongs to, is up to the law.
Oh, it's legal to possess it?
It's legal to possess it, yes.
It's easy to win over little kids by giving them sweets, unless they believe you've killed their fathers. Colonel Sam expressed regret for the army's massacre and mishandling of demonstrators at Tak Bai. When do you think peace will be restored to the south?
When?
When?
Very hard to predict, but I can say that it's better and better now.
The colonel seems optimistic, but last year there were around 1,000 violent incidents, 10 times more than the year before. Prime Minister Thaksin has ordered the army to be more aggressive. The Muslims are afraid of the army. Everyone is in fear of the insurgents. In this age of globalised terrorism, it is easy for the ghost warriors to manipulate the situation, whoever they are and wherever they come from.